Hey everybody, welcome to Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. This is episode number 142 of our YouTube channel and podcast, and I cannot be more excited to continue sharing with you guys personal finance topics that I think could be useful for you in your long-term financial journey. Today, we are going to talk about a more interesting, fun topic, and that is the things that Americans have borrowed money on, some of the craziest things that they have taken out debt in order to finance, and why it is just absurd to be taking out debt to doing any of these things, much less doing some of the more mundane things that we choose to do when we tend to take out debt on a regular basis. We'll also go through a quick recap of what credit cards actually are and how they actually work, and how personal loans actually work, because both of these types of debt are the most commonly used to finance things that are a bit weird, a bit absurd, and far more impulsive than just about any other type of purchase that you could make. Before we get started though, if you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything that you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcast, then be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms, and that would be greatly appreciated. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you to create a specific plan for you and your family when it comes to your finances and to keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Just go to my website, www.mnowithdylan.com. Click on the Work with Dylan tab, and you can choose the financial coaching session type that would work best for you, and we can begin pushing towards your long-term financial goals together. Now look, I spend a lot of time on this show talking to you about why debt is a bad idea. I spend a lot of time talking to you about how you shouldn't go into student loan debt, and how you shouldn't take out debt to purchase a vehicle, and how you should pay off your mortgage as quickly as possible, and you shouldn't let credit cards overrun your life, and all these different types of things. I want you to avoid debt if at all possible. But something that I have not done, and something that I think would be interesting to do, is to look at some of the ways in which people use debt, and just shows how normalized debt is in our society, and how crazy people can get when money is easily attainable. If it is easy to get money in our hands, we will do some crazy things with money. And people have done them. People have done them on a wide scale, and they typically do them using either their credit cards or a personal loan. Now, we understand the idea of a credit card, right? A credit card is nothing more than this piece of plastic. It has some revolving credit limit, meaning it is the total amount that you could use of credit that is offered to you. So let's say you have a $5,000 credit limit. That means you can put up to $5,000 worth of goods and services purchased on one credit card. And you can have multiple credit cards. You can have several credit cards, although I don't want you to have too many, and I also don't want them to ruin your life. But we're just talking about what they are, how they work in general, right? And you can use credit cards to purchase just about anything. And that is a real big upside, and we'll talk more about credit cards in tomorrow's episode. But you know that you have to repay that debt, and it is not an amortized loan, meaning it is not paid back in monthly installments that are fixed and that are going to pay it off at a particular point in the future. That is not how credit cards work. But then there are also personal loans. Now, personal loans are where you go to a bank or a credit union or whatever it may be that you bank with, and you'll go and you'll say, hey, I need X amount of money for whatever it may be. And sometimes it may be one of these crazy things that we are going to talk about today. But you would apply for a loan with the bank, and these loans are not backed by collateral. These loans have no collateral backing, in the same way that credit cards have no collateral backing, right? They can't take your house because you didn't pay your credit cards, and they can't take your house if you didn't pay your personal loan, and they can't take your car if you didn't pay your personal loan or your credit card or whatever it is. These are loans that do not have collateral attached to them, and in not having collateral attached to them, they will also charge some higher rates to make sure that they get their money back, and they get their money back in aggregate from all of the borrowers. And so they will check out when you're going to get a personal loan, your debt to income ratio, they'll check out your credit score, all of these different types of things and see what you qualify for. And these loans will be paid back in monthly installments that are amortized from anywhere from like 2 to 7 years, depending on the size and the type of the personal loan. And then they can be used for whatever the reason that you specified in the loan application. That's what you should use that money for. Now, sometimes people don't qualify for those unsecured loans, for those loans that do not have collateral. So they may be offered a secured loan, meaning you have to put collateral up, or a cosign loan where somebody would have to cosign for you, where if you don't pay, they are on the hook for the amount that is owed. And obviously, we do not want to be co-signing for anybody's loans, and we obviously don't want to be taking out either of these types of loans, whether it is secured, unsecured, or co-signed. We don't want to be taking out personal loans. This is not something that is going to be beneficial for us. So I don't want us to think that just because I'm spending time on it today that it's something that is going to be beneficial. No, it is something we still need to avoid, but we need to be aware of what it is and what it actually looks like. And we need to be aware of how Americans are actually using these types of loans. Now, some of the things I'm going to talk about today are in very rare occurrences, right? These things aren't happening widespread, but you can see via some of these weird things that people finance, how debt has just permeated our lives and how debt is just running everything that we do, to where we can't even do some of the fun or weird or strange things that we want to do without going and taking out debt in order to do them. And so we will jump right into some of these things that people have either taken out personal loans for or used their credit cards to finance. And these, some of them will be really strange. Some of them may be a bit more rational, but regardless, they are huge purchases. They are huge costs that are obviously going to put these people into debt that they are going to have to repay, which is not what we want to be doing. And some of them are just absolutely crazy. So let's jump right into what those things are. So we all watched Tiger King last year, right? Tiger King just took over on Netflix. And guess what? One of the things that people have taken out personal loans for or used their credit to purchase, they have financed purchasing tigers. And I'm just telling you, that is not just the debt part, but the tiger part, a horrendous idea. Just buying something that could actually eat you. That is not something that I'm particularly interested in. But people have financed purchasing exotic animals like tigers and then like lions, monkeys, things like that as well. And then the next thing, and this is just absurd, right? This is just somebody who might have a little bit of mental illness going on here. They took out a personal loan in order to have the chance to hold and smell $10,000 in $100 bills. Like that's crazy, right? They took out a loan in order to just hold and smell money. Like that just seems really, really wild, and I don't know why somebody would ever choose to do this. But like I said earlier, when money is really easily available to us, we will do some absolutely crazy things. And obviously, whomever this was, they did something that was absolutely crazy as well. Then this one's not as crazy, but just the profession that it is associated with is a little bit wild. But somebody took out money in order to become a taxidermist and to buy all of the equipment and the storefront and things like that to become a taxidermist. So as far as taking out a loan to start a business, that's not too crazy or too out of the ordinary. But if you're talking about becoming a taxidermist, somebody who is stuffing animals, I mean, that's a little weird, but not the strangest thing that somebody has done with a personal loan or a credit card by a long shot. I would say, somebody smelling $100 bills is far more crazy than taking out a loan in order to become something that they want to become. So, and especially here in the South, we have, taxidermists. They're quite common. And so this is not something far too crazy. Some of you who may live in more urban areas, you might think this is a pretty wild thing, but not for us who have, hunted, fished most of our lives. So becoming a taxidermist, that's something that somebody has borrowed money for. Another thing that somebody has taken out a personal loan in order to do is to build a nuclear fallout shelter. And again, this is an obvious doomsday prepper, right? This is obviously somebody who wants to take care of all of the things that they have and really make sure that there's no possible way that they could die given a nuclear issue or whatever it may be. And so this one's crazy. This one's absolutely just dumb. But if you want to do things like this, and I just want to pause right here in talking about a lot of these things because there are several more on the list, but I just want to pause and say, if you want to do some of these things that are a little crazier, like I'm not hating on somebody doing something so crazy. I understand if you want to do something a little more eccentric, you want to own a tiger, even though I don't know why somebody would want to own a tiger, or if you want to build a nuclear fallout shelter, I mean, part of me gets it, right? But the issue in all of this is not that people are doing crazy things, right? But the issue is that debt is so readily available to us, and that we just feel like we can go and get a loan, no problem, or we can go use our credit card, no problem, in order to purchase some of these crazy things. We have the credit available to us. We have the debt, the money available to us, and therefore we think, okay, well, I can just go do it now. Whereas if you were to just wait and to just put it off into the future until you can pay in cash. I mean, because some of these things are going to be a problem over the long term. Some of these things are going to be problematic, and people are going to be mad that they ever decided to purchase them in the first place. But they're especially going to be frustrated at the fact that they took out debt in order to finance doing or buying these certain things. And so just understand that I am not hating so much on the thing, but how crazy it is to do these weird, outlandish things and take out debt in order to do them. So basically saying, I'm willing to put off my future, right? I'm willing to rob from my future in some way in order to purchase or finance whatever this thing or this activity or whatever it is on this list that's a little bit out of the ordinary, that's a little bit strange. But nonetheless, we will move on with the list. So somebody has also borrowed money in order to buy a vintage arcade machine. Now, we know that if you're going to do something that is recreational, you're going to do something that is not going to provide anything back to you, it's just going to be fun for you, then you need to spend your fun money on it, right? You don't need to go into debt to buy things that you do not need, or to buy things that obviously over time, a vintage arcade machine might go up in value, it might not. But it is not a legitimate investment. It is something that you want so you can have fun. And no telling how much somebody would spend on something like this. But, if they had their friends come over and bring a roll of quarters, they might rack up. So who knows? But I do know that this is not something that would be a good idea to take out debt to do. Obviously, I don't take out debt to do anything, but especially not a vintage arcade machine. Now, we get into some that are pretty wild here. So somebody, they took out a personal loan in order to get plastic surgery to look like Kris Jenner, right? And Kris Jenner is the mother of the Kardashians. This is pretty wild thing to do. Again, I don't know why you would do this in the first place. I don't know that there might be a little bit of mental illness involved here. But even if you wanted to do this, even if you wanted to, alter yourself in this way, just do it with money that you have, right? Don't go into debt to do something this outlandish. This is absolutely crazy to be doing and to be borrowing money in order to do it. And, I just think about, as we're going through this list, I think about if these individuals are applying for these personal loans, I think about the loan officer and the individuals that read these loan applications, and how in the world do they end up qualifying for these loans? How in the world do they end up getting the money to do this? They must have a really good financial situation backing them, because these are some wild things. And these type of things do not show the loan officers any type of stability to where they could expect to get their money back in a timely manner, which is what they want, obviously. And so this, again, this is wild. To get plastic surgery to look like someone and then to finance it is just absolutely crazy. So I'm going to move off of that one because I can't even deal with the craziness. So then somebody, and this one's just, it's really, really funny. I, again, don't know why you would do it, but somebody really liked the restaurant Applebee's, and they took out a loan in order to eat at every Applebee's in the country. And one, I don't know who likes Applebee's that much. I mean, you may like Applebee's, but why are we going to eat at everyone in the country unless there's some kind of just major payoff that you can eat at Applebee's for free forever or whatever it may be? I do not see any reason that we would do this. And not to mention, this is taking out debt in order to eat somewhere, right? This is, I mean, at its baseline, you are taking out debt in order to go out to eat a bunch of times, which, as we talk about many, many times in this show, the food budget is one of the things that really puts people over the top as far as their budget goes. And so, I mean, if you can't afford to go out to eat, my goodness, do not go out to eat. And especially, do not waste all your nights to eat going to eat at the same place over and over and over again, because there are no telling how many Applebee's there are across the country, and somebody went and ate at all of them. So bravo to you. I don't know what the outcome was or what the benefit of doing so was, but going into debt in order to do that was just like flushing money down the drain, unless there was just some major grand prize or major benefit on the back end. But even so, going into debt to do it just is absolutely not a good idea. And then somebody else, they took out a loan to follow David Hasselhoff on his European tour. Now, those of you who don't know who David Hasselhoff is, from Baywatch back in the day and things like that. And I mean, not a top-notch performer that a bunch of people would want to go follow on a tour, but somebody wanted to, and they took out debt in order to go do it. Again, this is fun money. These are things that you could do if you wanted to do them and you had the money to do it. And as outlandish as it sounds, I don't care if it's Beyonce or Bruno Mars or Garth Brooks or whoever it is, somebody that's just astronomically huge. You do not do this with your money. You do not do this. You do not take out debt in order to do something like this. But somebody did, and this is a list of weird things that people have done. So I don't expect any of these to be normal or something that any of us would choose to do. Now, this next one almost sounds like something that would make a little bit of sense. Now, again, I don't want to take out debt. I don't want to do any of these things, but somebody took out a loan in order to disappear, in order to hire a private investigator and to get themselves off of the grid, to disappear from someone or something, who knows. Now, this would almost make sense if you were in a bad situation and you had no other choice but to try to disappear to get out of somewhere. But again, this is just super weird, and borrowing money for anything like this is crazy. Now, again, if there was some type of physical danger that was, I get that, right? That would make a little more sense, but this is still a wild and crazy one. Then somebody paid, and they took out debt to pay a celebrity to witness the birth of their child. And it's costly enough to have a child, right? My wife's pregnant right now. We're going through all of this, paying medical bills and things. And, then obviously the big bill that is to come when she actually has our baby. And that's costly enough, much less if you want to pay somebody to come watch it. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense in the world. And you definitely don't want to take out debt in order to pay somebody to come watch it. Again, when we talk about just a little bit of mental illness going on, or just a little bit of just somebody who's extremely eccentric, this is the type of person that you are talking about, no doubt. So do not do this. Don't fall into this type of thing. Then somebody has also taken out a personal loan in order to fly their dates around on a private jet. Look, if you don't have the money, just say that, right? If you don't have the money in order to do the things that you want to do with your dates, then you don't have the money, and that's okay, right? It is okay to not have the money, and you can be more creative, and you can make some better ideas that you can afford. And I promise you, unless you're just going for spoiled brats, people, and especially here we're talking about this guy buying these plane rides. These women will be, if they have a reasonable mindset, they'll be perfectly happy with you trying, and with you trying to go out of your way to do something special for them that you can afford to do. And I mean, just going into debt for this type of thing is just crazy, because there's no way to get that money back. And that's the wild thing about a lot of these on this list, is that like most of it is just money just poured down the drain, just thrown away. This money, there's no way to really recoup it. This money is gone. And so if we're going to spend this frivolously, we need to make sure that we have the money in order to do so. And if you don't, then find ways to do something recreational, or do something fun, or do something enjoyable to yourself that you can actually pay for in cash. Then somebody also, they took out a personal loan in order to install a personal water slide, which, again, recreational thing. I could see the fun in it, but we don't want to take out a loan in order to do this. And this kind of goes with, people taking out loans to build pools and things like that. Just don't do those. It's just not smart. Absolutely not smart. Okay. Then somebody has also, and this one's not as, weird. It's just something that, was a crazy thing that somebody did, but we would expect that somebody has taken out debt in order to fund a bachelor party in Las Vegas. I'm sure many people have actually done that. So that's not too wild and crazy, even though we should never go about doing that. Then somebody has also taken out a personal loan in order to cover up an affair, which is just so many issues there. So many issues with, 1, covering up an affair, 2, paying to cover up an affair, and 3, going into debt to pay to cover up an affair, which all of those things are just, some people need some help. And so, again, we are not wanting to take out debt for these types of things. But you see, in this type of situation, somebody feels so desperate, and they feel so just, like they're just ashamed of what they've done, that they're willing to go to any length in order to cover it up. And debt is that length for a lot of people. And so they did that. Somebody has taken out a loan in order to get a beard hair transplant. Look, it's okay if your beard hair doesn't grow too well. Look, I'm just saying, and I think most guys have gone through this. If you have problems with connecting, or if you, have some little patches or something, look, I get it. You want it to be full. You want it to be nice. I get it, right? But don't take out debt in order to fund your beard hair. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Let the stuff grow. And if it doesn't grow in, then just shave, and it'll be perfectly fine. If you want a beard that bad, there's probably an issue, or you live somewhere that's extremely, extremely cold and you need a beard on your face, in which case, still, we don't want to be going into debt for something this frivolous and something this crazy that we absolutely don't have to do. And I'm not just going to hold this to beard. I know this is just talking about somebody got beard hair transplant, but don't get a hair transplant taking out debt in order to do so, right? These are things that are cosmetic. It's all vanity there. So just don't take out debt in order to do it. If you want to do it when you have the money to do it, go ahead. But if you don't have the money to do it, then that is a big no. People, and this probably won't surprise many of you, people have taken out debt in order to buy grills, right? Like a grill that you put on your teeth, in your mouth. Again, it doesn't make sense. It's just frivolous purchases that people would make, and financing those type of things, and financing jewelry in general. Jewelry just doesn't hold its value like you think it would, or it doesn't grow in value like people think it does. And so buying it on any type of payments, any type of debt, is just not a good idea. And then this one is a bit more eccentric, a bit more funny. They took out a loan in order to build a working catapult, like a huge working catapult that would just throw stuff. And I could see the fun in playing with a catapult, but I do not see any type of logical reasoning why you would finance a catapult. That just doesn't register with me, but I could see the fun in that, throwing some things a long way, smashing some stuff. That's a real fun and outdoors thing to do, but to finance it doesn't make sense. And where are you going to store that thing? I don't know where you're going to store a catapult, but nonetheless. So then somebody also, and this is going to be our last weird thing that somebody has financed. They financed building a statue of a loved one. Now that's a little weird, right? That's a little strange to memorialize somebody with a statue. I mean, I'm somebody, I don't deal too well with things like graveyards, and it's not just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, much less building a statue of that person to look at. That's just a little bit wild, a little bit weird, and something that of course you should not be financing, because if you're in a place where you can't even afford to put your loved one in the ground without taking out debt, then why in the world are we doing things like building statues of them? That just makes no sense, and we should not go into debt for any of these types of things. So you see some of these wild things that people will go into debt for. And you may be thinking, not me. I'm not this guy. I'm not this person. I can still use debt. I can still, use it in a quote unquote smart way. Maybe you think you can, but we are the most heavily marketed to generation around debt, right? Credit card companies are constantly hitting us. If I just say, what's in your wallet, you know what commercial that is. I'm not even going to say it. You know what commercial that is, right? It's crazy to think that these companies have marketed to us so heavily that we are just so willing to go out and take out debt in order to do some of the crazy things that we want to do. Again, I'm not hating on the crazy things. I'm hating on the fact that we are taking out debt to do the crazy things. Even though the crazy things, there are some big red flags in some of these crazy things. The red flags just they triple, quadruple, they multiply when it comes to you're taking out debt in order to do some of those crazy things. Do not forget that any debt that you take out is going to be a strain on your future cash flow. Anything that you do, you choose to do, and you choose to take out debt in order to do it is robbing from your future self in order to have some type of gratification today. Listen, you can either sacrifice today and get your reward later, or you can get your reward today and have to sacrifice later. And we want the former, not the latter. We don't want to have to sacrifice later on. We want to set ourselves up for the best life possible later. And the best life possible is not going to come by financing some of these crazy, outlandish things. And it's not going to come from financing some of the mundane things that we see financed every single day. It's not going to come when you are financing depreciating cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs, right? It's not going to come by having credit card debt that we're just pulling along. It's not going to come by taking out student loans in order to go to a university that costs $30,000 a year. It is not going to come if you do those types of things. To reach long-term financial freedom, what you have to do is you have to get out of debt. You have to get out of debt in order to reach the dreams that you want to reach, because that frees up your cash flow. It frees up your ability to do all of these things that you want to do, and to do them in cash, and to do them however you want to do them. If you want to go buy a tiger, you go buy a tiger if you've got the money to do it and the facilities to do it, because we don't want tigers just running amok, right? We want to make sure that that's a safe situation. But if you have the cash to do these types of things, who's stopping you? But if you don't even have the cash to do it, then I don't understand. I don't understand why you would choose to rob from your future self in order to do something that is weird, strange, and outlandish. These weird, strange, outlandish things should come after, obviously, your needs, right? You should cover everything that you need first with cash. Then you should cover some basic wants, right? If you want to go on vacation or want to buy this, that, or the other, spend some money on certain things for yourself, then by all means go about it. But these weird, big purchases, by the way, all of these things were expensive purchases. These weird, big, outlandish things should come after those just general wants that you have into the big special want category. And you should save up for them over time and pay for them in cash if you want them so bad. And also, I'm sure some of these things were impulse, right? You were like, oh, that's a good idea. I'm going to, let me do that. You just had an idea and you took out debt to do it. And that's the thing. If we saved up for it, we may actually talk ourselves out of doing some of these crazy things. And we'll definitely talk ourselves out of financing them because we'll actually have the cash on hand to buy them if that's still what we want to do. The bottom line is debt is off the table. Personal loans are off the table. Credit card usage on crazy, huge things like this is just off the table. So make sure that they stay off the table. And if they ever come onto the table, then put the correct safeguards in place to keep you from ever reaching back in to that wallet for that credit card to buy something like this, or going to that bank to fill out that loan application to purchase something like this. It is just not worth it. It's not worth your time. It's not worth your money, and it's not worth what it's costing you in the long term. So thanks for watching this video. If you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything that you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcast, then be sure to subscribe and leave a review on either one of those platforms, and that would be greatly appreciated. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you walk through your financial life and create a plan that's specific to you and your family and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, I can help you do that. Just go to my website, www.MNOwithDylan.com. Click on the Work with Dylan tab, and you can choose the financial coaching session type that would work best for you, and we can begin pushing towards your long-term financial goals together. So tune in tomorrow as we talk about using a credit card like a debit card and whether or not this is something we should seriously be considering doing in our financial lives. So thanks for tuning into this episode of Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. God bless.